Hi, my name is Braden Wurzba, and I'm making this video to show you a little bit about my game, Falnor. A little bit about myself. I am a high school teacher. I teach chemistry in Raymond, Alberta, and I think some of that has spilled into how I've developed this game. I describe this game as a wonderful mix of three wonderful games that you probably are aware of. It's kind of a mix between Catan with some Wingspan and some Pandemic. There's many elements that I've drawn from some wonderful games that I love and play often to build this game. The game Falnor gets its name from the central mountain on the map. This is a overview map of an area, and Mount Falnor is at the center. It contains a very special and unique ore. Being a chemistry teacher, it kind of reminds me of things that I would teach my students, in that there are going to be different ores around this map that players would then collect. We've got gold, we've got copper, we've got chromium, we've got nickel here. There are many different elements around the map which players will collect, but a special one comes from Falnor, and the only place you can get it is the central mountain. A typical turn in Falnor will consist of 4 different phases. Each phase can be done in any order that the player wishes. And so at the beginning of a turn, you'll decide, I want to do this phase first or another phase first, depending on what you want to accomplish on your turn. And so while other players are taking their turns, it's very easy to plan your next turn. On your turn, one of the phases is to roll. And so you'll roll 3 dice. There's going to be 2 of a single color and then individual color. That's important because when you roll, that is how you're going to collect resources. And so I'll roll all 3. And one of the mechanics of Falnor is that I will look at my 3 dice. I will choose the highest for myself. I want to collect the most. And then I will choose a second number for the rest of the players in the game. And so I'll typically choose the lowest for them, but I'll have 3 dice. Now that doesn't incorporate the different colors. The different colors are used for different mechanics in the game, relatively easy to pick up. But one of the phases that you'll do is to roll. Now, once you start collecting your resources, you will bring them over to your player mat. Your player mat organizes the resources you contain. It has a few helpful um, hints on how the game progresses, and it also shows you how to forge. Now, the second phase that we'll talk about is going to be forging a crown. A player can take their piece and they will move it to a forge. There are 6 different forges around the map, and there are 6 different categories on our player mat which correspond to these different crowns, and they're organized around the map as well. Okay, these crowns are corresponding to different types of alloys. Every single crown in this game, with respects to what ores comprise them, are made from real history and real life. So it's neat that if I want to make a pewter crown, pewter is a historical alloy, I need to collect the different ores in order to smelt it around Falnor. And then I'll go and forge them. When I forge a crown, I will literally take the crown from around the map and I will bring it over to my area, and I have claimed that crown. Now, what do crowns do for me? They gain me glory. The point of Falnor is to gain the most glory, more than any other player, so that they can claim the title of ruler of Falnor. And so there's a race to the most glory in the game. And smelting crowns, collecting resources, smelting the or forging the crowns is going to be the best and quickest and most popular way to gain glory in Falnor. The third phase that we'll talk about is going to be movement. Every player gets 7 movement to distribute, either entirely onto one of their player pieces or between the 2. I can move them individually to a total at the end of my turn. I then start with 7 movement as the game progresses, and the more crowns that I forge throughout the game. Every time I forge a crown, I'm going to add +1 movement. So the game does speed up very nicely, and it's useful to then have that increased movement to gain more glory in the many ways that you can gain glory in the game. The fourth phase and the final phase that I'll talk about is playing a crown card. Every time that I forge a crown in Falnor, I will gain a card that can be tactical in any way that I wish to use it. And so as the game progresses and I smelt more crowns, I get more of these crown cards that I can then progress and strategically use in order to gain more glory again, to be the ruler of Falnor. At the end of the game, there are 4 different ways to gain glory, and you'll tally up all your points. And so, forging crowns is one way. Claiming these bonus crowns at the outer edge of the game are going to be a second way. We can also have crown combination cards that gain us bonus glory. Reminds me of Ticket to Ride, where you have the route cards, and if you gain those routes between 2 cities, you get bonus glory. That is the idea behind these bonus glory cards. And then there's category dominance between the different types of crowns and their categories. You're going to gain additional glory at the end of the game. Now, what makes this game really special and fun for me is that the idea that I can claim a crown and I take it from the map and bring it over to my player area is a very nice feeling. It's very cool. It's visually appealing. I love the idea that you can take a crown and then it adds to your glory at the end of the game. Second thing I like is the lore behind Mount Falnor. Mount Falnor, I've created the different element Falnorium. Mount Falnor can't just be mined at any time. It goes through a freeze and thaw cycle that does have to do with the different colored dice that you would roll. Depending on what you roll, the Falnor freeze thaw cycle will advance one at a time until it is in its thaw phase. When the mountain has thawed, players can then move their pieces, whether once it is thawed or maybe it's about to thaw, they want to move their pieces there preemptively, but then they can go there in order to gain the very rare element Falnorium. And Falnorium is used to make the crowns that give the most glory to a player. So it's important to be thoughtful that I need to get some Falnorium perhaps to win the game and gain the most glory at the end of the game. Falnorium is primarily a resource collection game along with resource management, peace management, player engagement, and thorough planning. Turns aren't very long. There's the 4 phases, but they can be planned ahead of time. We can look at the map and you can make your turns thoughtful while also making them engaging.